Hello there. This is All 24 News. You're watching World News Program with me, Karim Fazakri, live from Algiers. These are your headlines. Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi visits Algeria. He is to meet with senior officials and is expected to sign a package of agreements to enhance energy cooperation between the two countries. The first round of elections in France has ended with Emmanuel Macron set to face against far-right Marine Le Pen in another round of the French presidential election. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warns that Russia is preparing for a larger-scale operations in the east of the country and that next weeks will witness intense fights. The 17-year-old Palestinian youth Mohammed Zakarna died of his wounds by the Zionist occupation army in the north of the occupied West Bank. Hello again. Those were today's headlines. We kick off our news with today's Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi's visit to Algeria, during which he will meet with senior officials in the country. Draghi is expected to sign a package of agreements to enhance energy cooperation between the two countries and to increase gas imports as Rome steps up efforts to explore alternative sources following Russia's intervention in Ukraine. Draghi is accompanied by a high-ranking delegation that includes the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of Environmental Transformation, as well as the head of the energy group, Eni. Algeria is the second largest supplier of gas to Italy. The Trans-Mediterranean pipeline pumps Algerian gas to the Italian coast at a rate of 60 million cubic meters per day, an increase of 76% last year, reaching 21.2 billion cubic meters. And to talk more about the importance and meaning of this visit, joining me live via Skype from France, Mr. Abdenour Toumi, journalist and Maghreb Studies expert at Orsam Center for Middle East Studies based in Ankara, Turkey. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. How do you classify this visit? What's it for Algeria, Professor? How do you see this development? Is the Russia-Ukraine crisis going to impact Algeria positively through such cooperation? And is Algeria able to satisfy the European market as an alternative source following Russia's intervention in Ukraine?
Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for having me, and good afternoon to your viewers. It is a very interesting visit of Prime Minister Mario Draghi to Algiers on this time. And actually, the aim of the visit leads toward two aspects. Actually, on the bilateral level, actually between, and we noticed lately, Algeria and Italy have been enhancing their relations, and this goes with Algiers' new doctrine foreign policy, and that said for a determinant that a quality of diplomacy as well, and also to give to answer to your last question about the Algeria-Moscow relations, and this gives to Algiers a kind of a free movement in, and also it is settled in Algiers' new foreign policy doctrine in terms of the diversification of its partners. Therefore, it's not going to touch the relations between Algiers and Moscow, that because knowing that Algiers and Moscow have an excellent relations. On the other hand, Algiers also has a possibility now in terms of diversification of its foreign policy. The message goes to the late tensions between Algiers and Madrid on one hand, and to the Chile relations that have been going on for the last year or so between Algiers and Paris. on the issue of the specific visit of Prime Minister Draghi to Algiers, in these days. And of course, here it goes on the integral level as well, because as you know, the ongoing war, Russia-Ukraine war, and its economic impacts on Europe, has a direct impact on the European countries, notably Germany, France, and so Italy. And Italy now is positioning itself in between these two, I would say, pivotal states, European pivotal states, Paris and Berlin. And Rome now is trying to position itself in new posture that it can be, I would say, a serious mediator in terms of looking for an alternative options from the Russian oil. Indeed, still Algiers has a good card to play on this one, and also it enhanced the relations between the two countries on other issues, such as, we have been noticing lately there are some political instability in Tunisia and Libya, and both countries, Algeria and Italy, are concerned on this issue in terms of their national security issues. And here it comes in the middle, the question of the migrant, and that, these days we are not talking about this issue a lot, but it is still a serious threat to on the European shores, and notably to the Italians. So this one also put Algiers and Rome in the regional level in terms of mediation as well. And as I mentioned, the instability in Libya, and are now serious facilitators in the ongoing crisis, Libyan crisis, and so Algiers and Rome can play a role in it. Also, we don't forget, this is not, just a new relations, and this is not only based on energy as it is or as it sounds, but also on solid bilateral cooperation between the two countries. And this was also fortified last fall by the visit of the Italian president, to a state visit of Italian president to Algeria. And this will lead to a new, I would say, strategic rapprochement between the two countries.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdelnour, for these explanations. You were with us live from France. The first round of the elections in France has ended with Emmanuel Macron set to face off against far-right Marine Le Pen in another round of the French presidential election. The outgoing president defeated the leader of the far-right, scoring around 28% of the vote against 24% for Marine Le Pen.
For the second time, Emmanuel Macron has won the first round of the French election, a chance for the youngest French to have become president to be elected for another term.
In this decisive moment for the future of the nation, nothing should be as before. That's why I want to reach out to all those who want to work for France.
His rival will again be the far-right Marine Le Pen, who called on every non-Macron voter to support her. Le Pen, known for her anti-Muslim thoughts, is promising major shifts for France if elected as the country's first woman president.
Me soit permis d'exprimer aux millions d'électeurs qui m'ont témoigné leur confiance.
I allow myself to express my sincere gratitude to the millions of voters who have shown their confidence in me. I see the hope that the forces for the country's recovery are rising. During this first round, the French people clearly wanted the country to arbitrate a fundamental choice between two opposition visions of the future.
Fondamental entre deux visions opposées de l'avenir.
Je veux dire pour finir.
Knocked out of the contest in the first round, the extreme right candidate Éric Zemmour urged his supporters to vote for Le Pen in her runoff against Emmanuel Macron. Anne Hidalgo, right after the announcement of the results, has called for a vote in favor of Macron against the extreme right.
I do not consider a France with Marine Le Pen. Her principles, no. They will lead to the disunity of the French and lots of things.
Ce qui pourrait faire que je vote, je sais pas.
What could make me vote? I don't know. I won't vote for National Front. But what could make me decide to vote? Frankly, I would have to be interested a little more. But I'm struggling right now.
Faudrait que je m'intéresse un peu plus, mais j'ai du mal en ce moment.
In 2 weeks from now, French people will take to the polls to vote for their president for the last runoff, with security concerns in Europe to be in mind, and a major criteria to choose the next French president.
To the Russia-Ukraine file now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says in a televised address that Russia is preparing for a larger-scale operations in the east of the country and warned that next week will witness intense fights. Zelensky also praised the position of Chancellor Olaf Scholz and said that this is what the German people want.
They have already spent almost 2,000 missiles, countless airstrikes, artillery fire on Ukraine, and we are somehow to blame. They tortured and killed on our land, and we are to blame. They deported hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian women and children. Next week will be no less important than this one or the previous one. It will be just as tense and even more crucial. Russian troops will move on to even larger operations in the east of our country. I'm glad to see that the German position has recently changed in favor of Ukraine. I think it's absolutely logical, because this direction is supported by the majority of the German people. And I'm grateful to Chancellor Olaf Scholz, but I expect everything we have agreed to be implemented.
Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer will become the first European leader to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow today, Monday, since the Russian special military operation in Ukraine began on February 24th. The visit by the Austrian Chancellor to Russia is said to act as a bridge builder between Moscow and Kiev. Nehammer's visit comes after he had met with Zelensky and Kiev mayor in Ukraine on Saturday. Kiev authorities, backed by a number of Western countries, prepare for brutal and violent acts and mass killing of civilians in the Lugansk and People's Republic to accuse the Russian forces and the Luhansk forces of it, said the head of the Russian National Center for Defense Management in a statement today, explaining that the Kiev regime forces are planning an alleged representation about mass graves of civilians killed by the Russia Federation Army. In Luxembourg today, European Union foreign ministers meet to discuss imposing the sixth package of sanctions against Moscow, amid European division over the issue of halting purchases of Russian oil and gas. Although the expected sanctions will harm Russia to the maximum extent, the European Union's boycott of its energy imports is not officially on the table. According to European diplomats, negotiations are underway. Last Friday, the European Union imposed a fifth package of sanctions on Russia, which included a European ban on imports of Russian coal. The World Bank said Ukraine's economy is set to shrink by almost half in 2022 as a result of the conflict in the country. With a blockade of Black Sea ports in the south of Ukraine and the havoc caused to industry in the east, Ukraine's GDP is projected to drop by about 45% this year. The World Bank has sent almost $1 billion of assistance to Ukraine so far, and has promised a further $2 billion in the coming months. A pro-Russian rally of around 600 people was held in Frankfurt, Germany, at the initiative of the country's Russian-speaking community, which feels that it has been the victim of discrimination since the outbreak of the crisis in Ukraine. The demonstrators expressed their anger about the harassment they face on a daily basis and demanded separation between personal life and political one.
We organized this protest because many of us Russian speakers, Russians, have been discriminated and harassed because of our language and culture. That's why we gathered here, to show that we do not tolerate that. You have to separate the current political situation from the human situation. The war didn't start this year. It's a war that's been going on since 2014, and that's why I find the term attack not quite appropriate.
Ukrainians arrived in California from Tijuana, Mexico, where a huge operation has been set up to help thousands of Ukrainians cross the border into the United States. Refugees outside the center set up at the entry point in the border town of San Isidro said that it was a very long and hard journey, especially for the kids who had to sleep at the airports for days.
We come into America from Europe 8 days. It was very, very hard, 8 days, because we sleep in airport with children.
Now, this moment, I am 50-50. I have happiness, but some inside is, some stone. But okay.
The 17-year-old Palestinian youth Mohammed Zakarneh died of his wounds by the Zionist occupation army in the north of the occupied West Bank. According to official Palestinian media, Zionist forces have also killed 2 Palestinian women in separate incidents. Zara Farjani has more details in this report.
The Palestinian Mohammed Zakarna was shot dead by the Zionist forces in the occupied West Bank, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, bringing the total number of Palestinians martyrs to 4 in the last 24 hours. Palestinian medical sources said that the young man was shot in the abdomen yesterday and underwent several operations at a Razi hospital in the city. Zionist escalation in Jenin will not go unnoticed, and the Palestinian resistance, with its various brigades, will be on the lookout for the Zionist occupation. Al-Aqsa, Al-Qassam and Al-Quds brigades pledged with one voice during a press conference the joint resistance to defend the city and its residents, after the Zionist government of Naftali Bennett gave the green light to the occupation forces to discharge everyone associated with the recent rebel operations, which shook the depth of the entity. The mosques of Jenin camp are also in a state of general alert to confront the occupation forces, following the deadline expiration given by the occupation to the martyr Hazem's father, the head of the occupied Quds operation.
After a week of long constitutional crisis that climaxed on Sunday when Imran Khan lost a no-confidence vote, Pakistan's parliament was poised to gather on Monday to pick a new prime minister, with opposition leader Shehbaz Sharif the favorite to win. Sofyan Kanturi reports.
Prime Minister Imran Khan was overthrown on Sunday by a no-confidence motion passed in parliament. The former cricket star called on his supporters to protest calmly, and he said he would not accept the new government.
Pakistan was united against this decision of treason. Imran Khan himself and his team never supported treason, and the government was overthrown by a conspiracy. We will fight until the last moment to save him.
Shehbaz Sharif is the younger brother of 3-time Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who was disqualified from holding public office by Supreme Court in 2017 and then fled abroad for medical treatment after serving only a few months of a 10-year prison term on corruption charges.
They were telling us only lies in these last 3 years, and there were no limits to their false promises. Shehbaz is the solution.
The younger Sharif rose to fame as the head of a united opposition against Khan, a former cricketer who has asserted that the US was behind his demise, but Washington denied. For over half of its nearly 75-year existence, the military has ruled the country of 220 million people. When Khan elected in 2018, it viewed him and his conservative program favorably.
The ruling National People's Party won only 18 seats out of 53 in the Gambia's legislative election on Saturday, according to the Independent Electoral Commission. The United Democratic Party, the largest opposition party, came in second with 15 seats, encompassing practically the whole capital area. According to the IEC, the election was characterized by poor voter turnout. While waiting for the dialogue that President Said seeks to start, some opposition leaders insist on continuing the protest and are urging their supporters to take to the streets to pressure the president to drop his course through rallies against what they consider mismanagement and rejection of dialogue. In China, authorities in Shanghai have moved to loosen the city's extreme lockdown as local revolts become rampant. The outrage pouring on social media because of the lack of food supplies and the lockdown imposed on the city is unprecedented. A hashtag saying Shanghai epidemic has been viewed 3 billion times over the last 30 days. Almost 26 million residents of Shanghai are currently under a lockdown. To Mexico now. In a vote marked by low turnout, preliminary results show that Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador won a referendum Sunday on whether he should remain in office and complete his term or step down. Hossam Berkan has the full story.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador will stay in power after a referendum on Sunday in which Mexicans largely endorsed his continuation in office, but with less than 20% turnout.
Citizen turnout is between 17% and 19.2%.
In an address to the nation, President Andrés Manuel thanked the 15 million citizens who voted for him and promised not to run again for office.
I will continue to serve until the last day of my term. I will go no further than that because I'm Democrat and do not favor re-election. I want to thank you because more than 90% of you voted for me to finish my term. More than 15 million Mexicans are happy and want me to continue until September 2024.
15 millones de mexicanos.
The 68-year-old president elected in 2018 for a 6-year term won a majority of around 90.3% in favor of keeping him in office until 2024, according to the preliminary vote count by the National Electoral Institute. It's noteworthy that the president wouldn't have been obliged to resign even if the majority had voted no.
Muchas felicidades, muy buenas noches.
Social media giant Twitter announced that Elon Musk will not join the company's board of directors as it was previously announced. Twitter CEO Parag tweeted the news, which followed a weekend of Musk tweets suggesting possible changes to the American company, including making the site ad-free. Despite nearly 90% of Twitter's 2021 revenue came from ads, Elon Musk will remain Twitter's largest shareholder. Manchester City and Liverpool drew 2-2 at the Etihad Stadium on Sunday, leaving the reigning champions just 1 point ahead of their rivals at the top of the Premier League table.
Wild. Better start, obviously, for City. In the first half, they with a big chance. And that's how it is. It's. I think we can really describe it like a little bit like a boxing fight. So, both the arms down for a second and you get a massive knock. You can shake a little bit and the next knock is coming from the other team. So I liked a lot of things. I thought we were closer than ever.
He likes these punching games, and we faced them. I think it's a good advert for the Premier League. Here in UK, our fans, Liverpool fans, all around the world, it was a fantastic game. Both teams want to try to win. They did everything. Unfortunately, we could not win. I had the feeling that we let them alive, to live alive from here. But yeah, listen, Liverpool is a joy to watch. I know the threats they have up front, so how good they are. So no doubts about that, how difficult they are, but I think we perform really, really, really well. I'm so incredibly proud of my team.
In Damascus, the Syrian capital, people are still beating drums to wake up to Sahur, or Ramadan's pre-dawn meal. Hassan al-Rashi and Sharif Harsho, traditional Ramadan drummers known as Musaharati, roam the streets of Damascus to wake up Muslims at the dawn of the traditional Sahur of the holy month of Ramadan, an ongoing habit despite the existence of technology.
Our ancestors depended entirely on Musaharati to wake up. There were no alarm clocks or cell phones at that time. The Musaharati woke people up by beating drums. Today things have changed. Everyone has a mobile phone, and most of them use it to wake up. But the people of our country do not forget their traditions. The character of Musaharati is one of these traditions, so we will never forget it, and we won't give it up.
And with this, ladies and gentlemen, our news bulletin comes to a close. Thank you for tuning into our channel, and bye for now.